The new Chat GPT Image Generator just came out, and I was able to take just a simple prompt and create an iPhone ad if it came out in the 90s. I also prompted for this image, which is a screenshot of a text conversation with Chat GPT and Nano Banana going back and forth about whose image generator is better. So in this video, I'm going to show you some other use cases and some fun things that I've done of how you can use ChatGPT in this new image generator to generate your next image. Let's jump right into it. One of the first images that I created was this mock-up of the new DJI Pocket 4 that just came out. If you're in the content creation world or in the camera world, you've seen videos all over the place about the Pocket 3, and now the Pocket 4 just was announced this past week. And so I wanted to create a mock-up that looks like a DJI ad. And so this was a prompt I gave it. I said, let's do a product mock-up of the latest release of the DJI Pocket 4 camera. Let's make the mock-up in the scene of the jungle with lots going on and wildlife action, and make the ad feel like the viewer of the ad gets to be able to capture those types of things with this camera. And so this is exactly what it came up with, which to me was pretty amazing. I mean, this looks like a DJI ad for sure, something you would see on social media or something that they would post on their website. Everything about this looks like a standard DJI type of ad. Now, the only difference that needed to be made was this mock-up. If you're paying attention, this is actually the DJI Pocket 3. I basically just took a screenshot of, or downloaded a screenshot of the Pocket 4 of how it looks, a couple different buttons here that are different, and asked, hey, this is actually the product. Please update the mockup with this product. And of course, there enough, it did. It basically kept everything else the same, but has the updated actual product image, which was pretty cool. So this use case could be for anyone who has a physical product that they're marketing, and they can basically put their product in any type of scene and make it look really nice, and able to do so in a matter of minutes. And with the DJI Pocket 4 release coming out, there has been rumors of another camera that's going to compete directly with it. This is the Insta360 Luna. And this is the ad that I was able to produce with a simple prompt. And the prompt was, let's make a mock-up of an amazing product image for the rumored Insta360 Luna camera. It's been leaked, it's coming soon. Here are the images. So I just added this right here. And I said, make the product mock-up that will show what the potential specs are that compete with the Pocket 4. And as far as the aesthetic, I said, make the style of the ad bright and feature the product prominently in a scene that is full of energy, but in a real life outdoors setting. And it chose this scene of a skate park where you've got this guy skating. And this would be a perfect example of where this type of camera would be used to capture different footage. It's nice and bright, full of energy. The lighting on this is great, sunny, blue sky. It has all the specs on the left, similar to how the DJI one looked. This is the Insta360 logo and style, fonts, and all of that. So this is a really solid ad as well. Basically, just with one prompt was able to create this. And speaking of ads, let's go to this iPhone of the 1990s. I know that Apple was around in the 90s, but they had a different look and feel. And obviously the iPhone wasn't created until 2007. So I was curious to know what an iPhone would look like if it did come out in the 90s. And this was the kind of advertisement that it came up with. So I typed in the chat, let's do a 1990s version of a modern smartphone ad, bring in some elements of pop culture during the time and make the ad seem like an Apple ad, but don't make the iPhone like the newer looking tech. Make it look like they had made it in the 90s. And this is a pretty good picture, a pretty good mock-up of probably what an iPhone would look like back then. And we've got those elements of pop culture with The Simpsons, Jurassic Park, Will Smith, and that old style of Apple with the Apple when it has like the rainbow colors there. I added to the prompt, I said, now let's add some celebrity endorsements. And this is what it came up with. So popular back in those days, David Beckham, of course, Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and the man who basically turned it into what it is today, Steve Jobs. This looks legit like an ad that they would have back in the day with Steve Jobs. And it's got a few things down at the bottom of what you would be able to do. You've got some basic apps, and that would have been groundbreaking back in the day. Yes, one device with infinite possibilities. When it came to thinking about historical time periods, I thought, well, what would it be like to have Costco in the medieval times? And so I basically just prompted, create a 16:9 image of medieval Costco parking lot with the craziness that comes with being in a Costco parking lot. My goodness. This does represent it well, minus the fact that there are cars here. They didn't have cars back in the day. So then I did ask it to make the scene wider and show more of the parking lot. But then I also asked it to remove the cars and have these buggy type things. And so I also added a different version, give me a different version of it. And this is what it came up with. This is more of a fun one, but to be able to create these scenes that you wouldn't necessarily be able to easily create with just one prompt, it's kind of amazing that this technology is able to do that. But back to something a little bit more practical. So this is a picture of a listing on Zillow. I randomly went to the maps on Zillow. I zoomed out and then I typed in the keywords. I wanted the words in the listing to say needs updated. And of course, I was going to return some very interesting properties. And we have one here in Gordo, Alabama, 858 Rumba Road in Gordo, Alabama. And we've got a house that definitely needs some updating. And by the way, where is this house? This house is like in the middle of nowhere, literally the middle of nowhere. So I thought, well, what would it be like if you wanted to reimagine this house and bring it to life? I said, let's renovate this house to have a more modern design. Let's not make it too modern and futuristic, but make the photo itself photorealistic. Let's bring it up to style that would be relevant in 2030, incorporating some of the trends that are coming out now as far as interior design, colors, furniture selection, etc. And this is what it returned. So from our initial image, it brought it up to life with this look, which to me looks pretty modern. I don't know if you'd call it farmhouse. I'm not an expert in interior design, but this definitely brings it up to date. And this is very cozy in my opinion. So then I wanted to update this image as well, which I assume is the kitchen in this house. And it matched kind of the style and decor of the first image, but again, bringing it up to that modern feel and more updated interior design. Then there was the bathroom. And so I said, let's do the same thing with this bathroom. It's in need of some updates. And this is what it came back with. To me, this looks great. This looks super inviting, warm, cozy. Keeps some of that wood aesthetic, but brings it up to date. I thought this was pretty nice to be able to reimagine some different parts of a house that needs updating. So I thought, of course, we could do the inside of a house, but what about the backyard? And I searched on Zillow listings that had the keywords big backyard. And so I found this one here, and these are the pictures of the backyard. So let's reimagine this. So I said, let's turn this house's open backyard into an amazing oasis and outdoor living space, one that feels inviting and makes you want to spend every nice day outside. And so this is what it came up with, and it used the angle kind of from the side of the house. And I thought this looked really cool. This would be an awesome backyard. Then I really wanted an image that showed the bigger backyard space. Like this photo shows more of the backyard. And so then I said, okay, great. Let's use it for this image. And this is what we got in return. And this is a super nice looking patio. Like this would be on HGTV in my opinion. And I think for anybody who wants to reimagine their space, they can come in with Chat GPT Image 2.0 and give it some ideas so that they can get the inspiration for how they want to change whatever physical space they may want to update. So I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, and this was a picture that I took at one of the games a couple years ago. And I was just curious to see what would this look like if we turned the field and put a stage there of a big rock concert. And this is the image that it returned. I didn't even specify what band, but it showed that we have Guns N' Roses and a whole bunch of different people with fireworks and big lights. And it did keep some of the elements of the original photo, like this guy wearing this Kelsey jersey, some of the people that were in front of me wearing Eagles hats and just kind of looking around. But it did change pretty much everything that was on the field. You can't even see the football field, but it did keep also a lot of the things over here on the side. This Xfinity advertisement, the American flag, Bud Light, all of this stuff over here was kept intact. Again, here's the original image where you can see some of that stuff. Some of those changes are very small, but I think with this model, it's interesting to see what things it's able to keep intact and keep consistent. Then I added this photo of me at the game. This was actually after the NFC Championship game, the year that they won the Super Bowl. And so I took a picture of myself after we had won that. And so I said, well, let's put me in the scene with the rock concert. And this is what it looked like. I also asked it to make it look like I was using a flash with the camera to make it look a little bit more realistic. And I thought it came out pretty good on my face. I think some parts here in the background lost a little bit of detail from the original image. And yes, some of the stage elements changed. Then I said, well, make it look like I'm actually at a rock concert. So it changed my outfit. I've got kind of like this Jerry curl looking thing going on with the chain and leather jacket, big bracelet with spikes on it, and a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, which is really interesting because the concert is Guns N' Roses and you got Slash right there on the guitar. That's actually pretty cool. So I'm a sports guy. I also like music, obviously like videography, but I wanted to know what would it look like if I created an album cover. And the past couple of days I've been listening to more like funk, old school R&B type music. So I wanted to take this image and turn it into a old school funk soul type album cover. And so here's what it came up with. So here was the first iteration of it. This actually looks pretty good. This looks like an old school vinyl record cover, and it's got the name of the album, The Shot of Soul. That was actually part of the prompt. I said, name the album a name that is a pun with cameras, content, or something similar. And so it came up with Shot of Soul. And then even some of the songs on the album, Smooth Frames, Picture Perfect, Focal Point, Real Love, and more. Even the parental advisory, funky content is kind of, but I wanted to make some changes to the look and the aesthetic. And after a few iterations, this is what I came up with. So I just made myself look a little bit brighter. And even the lens, I just noticed that now says live in focus. That's kind of a fun one that you can play around with and create some really interesting things for your personal brand or just having fun. And as a videographer and photographer, there's times where just the lighting makes the huge difference. And in this photo, I did want to capture it this way where the sun was kind of behind me, but overall, this is not that great of an image when it comes to lighting. So I wanted to give it a try and see how well it can update lighting. And so I basically just said, update the lighting on this photo. And this is what it came up with in the first try. And I thought this actually is a pretty good adjustment to what we had before. The lighting is night and day difference, way more evenly balanced, and the background isn't blown out. And also you can see me, the subject. I was also able to go through and change my outfit, give me some sunglasses, a lei, because on the island, this wasn't Hawaii, by the way, but still just wanted to change it around and see if we could keep the image looking the same while changing some different details on the subject. And here's an example where I did manually edit a photo. Here's the before, and then here is the after. There was this TikTok trend going around that I had seen maybe about a year ago where people were showing their process of editing images, and they would have the before and then they'd have the after of what they changed, and it would look like handwriting. And so I basically asked AI if it could do that with these two images. I asked it to analyze the images and then draw and annotate on the image what it changed and how it improved. And this is what it came back with. So on the left, you have the before, which is the original image. And then the one on the right is the one that has the increased vibrance and saturation, more detail in the rocks, stronger contrast on the subject, which we can definitely see, bluer sky tones, deeper shadows, most definitely, and also increased clarity, slight warmth, and subtle sharpening. This is exactly what I was going for based upon, again, the TikTok trend that I had seen a little while back. And so this use case can be cool for showing any process where you take something from before into after, and you can have AI analyze the two images, or you can even tell it what's changed in the two images to be able to annotate. And I think this is just a really cool way for people to look and see, okay, well, I can tell that there's a difference between the two, but what are those actual differences and what specific things were done to change the image? This next one was interesting because I had seen that this model can do much better with mockups of UI, UX, different apps. And so I said, make a screenshot of an Alex Hormozi video on YouTube. And this is what it came up with. And surprisingly, this looks pretty legit. I mean, you could still tell that this isn't necessarily Alex Hormozi in an actual video of his, but the mockup of YouTube, this looks 100% what YouTube interface looks like. The only thing that I wanted to update were the thumbnails on the side, because you have all Alex Hormozi videos and these thumbnails look a little too uniform. So I asked it to change some of those thumbnails, and it did. This looks more representative of the thumbnails that he might create, even though we could tell that version of him doesn't quite look as accurate. But the mockup itself looks like YouTube, and this looks like a video he would actually create on his channel. And I didn't give any extra context to that. I just said, make it look like an Alex Hormozi video that I'm watching. So this was another one that I had fun with. And this is a screenshot of a conversation on the Messages app between Chat GPT and Nano Banana. But before I got to this, I actually asked Chat, I said, I want to create a short back and forth message thread between Nano Banana and Chat GPT that is a friendly spat between the two about their capabilities of their image generators. ChatGPT kicked things off with asking Nano Banana if they saw the latest image generator drop, and then have a conversation go on for 2 to 3 messages each. So then here is the messages that it came back with. I said, okay, great. Now let's turn this conversation and mock it up on an Apple iPhone with the Messages app UI. Send it from ChatGPT's phone. So it understood that. So it's ChatGPT's phone. And so it has the contact Nano Banana, and it has the photo there. And it started off and kicked things off from ChatGPT. Yo, Nano Banana, you see the latest image generator drop, or were you still rendering fruit bowls in 512p? Nano says, saw it, cute update. Let me know when your hands stop making 6 fingers and a mystery thumb. Wow. Then Chat responds, bold talk from a model named after a lunchbox snack. I make cinematic worlds now. You still out here making banana in space for the 900th time? Ooh, a little back and forth. Nano replies, and yet my banana in space has better lighting, cleaner text, and doesn't accidentally turn the moon into a croissant. Then Chat responds, keep joking. While you're polishing produce, I'm turning wild prompts into movie posters, ad campaigns, and scenes people actually remember. Then Nano leaves off the conversation with, that's adorable. Wake me up when they stop asking you for one more version, but more realistic. Wow. So this one was an interesting use case because I had created a guide called the Personal Thumbnail Library on my other YouTube channel. It is basically just a lookbook that you can take photos of yourself in to help you create thumbnails. I wanted to create a lookbook that was similar to what I had already created. I said, please take these images, create a lookbook that helps people take pictures of themselves in different expressions. They can use it for YouTube thumbnails. And I said, go ahead and label those as well. Lay it out like a grid. And this is what it came up with. I didn't tell it specifically which photos were which expression. It basically interpreted the expression itself and then gave it the label, which I didn't have to do any of that. I did also tell it to make a little bit more cartoon. And so that's what it did here. And here's where I will make a little bit of a critique with this new image model. It seems like when I threw multiple images of myself at it, that's where it seemed to struggle to keep the character consistency. When I was dealing with just one image, it did a really good job. But when I had multiple images, sometimes it would drift away from what the subject looked like. And so you could tell that a little bit here. Some of these images towards the top do look more like me, but as you go on, they start to fade into someone who doesn't quite look like me. They still get the expression right and have the poses, but the character consistency between the two starts to fade. And I'll show you one other example, which I was really surprised by. It would be amazing if they were able to have character consistency with it, but I was still impressed by the design, no less. And that is this movie poster for the Avengers Endgame. I thought it would be cool to have different photos of me and different settings with different clothes and put it together so that it looks like a movie poster from the Avengers. So here's the original image with all the Avengers on here from the movie. And I had all these different images of myself in different scenes, settings. I said, take the many images of me in different forms, outfits, turn it into a movie poster for the Avengers, like the first image I have. And this is what it came up with. And I was actually pretty impressed that it was able to kind of formulate and position me in the image like that. But what I will say is that the character consistency is kind of falling off as well. And again, I think this is maybe a common thread, that if you throw multiple photos of a subject or yourself at it, it will maybe start to drift away. I think this version right here with me with the camera is the closest to me. Maybe this one here with my headphones, but then you can tell just how the images of the others are not quite the same. I think maybe that has to do with the amount of photos that I've thrown at it. And as I've shown in the other, it seems to break down a little bit when you have multiple photos that you're throwing at it of the same person. With that being said, this is an amazing tool. I'm excited. I'm going to be doing some more videos and use cases of how you can use this image generator for some practical things in your business, in your content creation process. So make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more of that. Also hit the like button if you learned something new or if you found any of these images funny or amusing. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.